Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining me today. I have a question do you struggle sometimes to build stamina and endurance in your dog? Is that an area that maybe your dog is struggling in, or maybe your dog is doing really well, but you want to do better? This is a question I had asked a couple times this week, and it's a very, very frequent question that I get when I'm talking about canine fitness. How do we build stamina? How do we build endurance? And our stamina and endurance, is that the same thing? Is that one and the same? And that's what I'm going to talk about today is what is the difference between stamina and also endurance? How do you build stamina and endurance in your dogs? And we're going to look specifically at sport and working dogs. So I'm going to be giving some examples of what does this look like in, say, an agility dog? What does it look like if you do detection work, a scent work? What does it look like if you have a protection trained dog? And I'm going to give you some examples, and there's not like one right or wrong answer. There's a number of variables to consider depending on your needs, your purposes, and your goals. So super excited to have you here today. Let me know in the comments, let me know what is your activity, what sport, what job, where is it that you want your dog to improve stamina or endurance? Is it in scent work? Is it in obedience? Is it running? Is it protection work? And that will help me as I'm giving examples. But before we get started, let me just give a quick hello and an introduction for those of you who are new. My name is Erica Bowling, and I am the owner and founder of Northeast Canine Conditioning. I love helping people take their sport dogs and working dogs and turning them into elite canine athletes, and also bringing this knowledge and helping our pet dog world also. We've got a huge epidemic here in the United States, and I know in other countries, with obesity in our pets. So fitness is very, very important, from pet dogs through our working and sport dogs. Before I start, I just wanted to share with you, I do have a, let me see if I can put it in here in the comment section. I am live on my Northeast Canine Conditioning Facebook business page. If you are seeing this elsewhere, I will post this link afterwards, but I have a handout for you guys, and I just threw it. If you are in my my business page, it should have gone through. But what I have for you to kind of help you in this process is a canine fitness calendar. And it is, it gives you, it's a template. It doesn't have all the exercises in there because it's going to vary and depend on what are your needs, what are your goals. But in this calendar, I have a template. It's a week at a glance. So you can see, the whole week, 7 days a week, and it's broken down into different categories like strength training, cardio, flexibility, body awareness. And there's a section on that calendar for sport or work specific training. So I'm going to be giving you some examples here. And so you might want to pull that up, or later on go in and fill in that calendar so you can see where is your cardio, where are you building more endurance, and what days of the week, where are you going to put this on your calendar. I highly, highly recommend document it, put it on your calendar, plan it in advance. If you expect for the time slot just to become open, usually that doesn't happen. You have to make the time. And we're going to talk very quickly here. I'm going to talk about some things you need to have in place for this to be effective. And one of them is consistency. So consistency is super, super important. And that's why I'm also giving you that calendar. So again, if you're watching this live and if you do not see that comment section, if you're not on my business page, or if you're listening on the phone, I will go back and post that so you can come back and watch the replay, and the link will be there. And feel free to message me too. So we're going to dive right in. I'm going to pull up some examples here, and I'm going to give you first a definition. We're going to talk a little bit between the differences between stamina and endurance, and then I will go into some sport-specific and work-specific examples. So, all right, you ready? Let's jump right in. So the first one is stamina versus endurance. Usually, in general, I'm guilty of this. We use the terms interchangeably a lot of times, and we use them as one and the same. But if you look in, say, exercise science, they are not exactly the same. So I'm going to do a little bit of kind of paraphrasing here. So stamina is the amount of time given to a group of muscles that they can perform at or near maximum capacity. And that is key for stamina. You are looking at maximum capacity, near maximum capacity. So, if I am a runner, that is, maximum capacity, that's like we're doing that sprint. If I'm a jumper, it might be how high am I jumping, that power in the jump, that maximum capacity, how high can I jump? And that is key for stamina. For endurance, we are looking at the maximum amount of time given for your muscles to perform a certain action. So think of endurance as kind of length of time. So I'll give you another example. I can go running for, say, 40 minutes. But my endurance is 40 minutes. I can, keep going at a steady pace for 40 minutes. I can guarantee you I am not working at maximal capacity. All right. So my endurance might be okay. In 40 minutes, I can run so many miles. And, sometimes I might go a little harder, a little easier. Maybe I'll walk, maybe I'll jog. But my endurance is okay. I can go for 40 minutes straight. I can go for 5 miles, but it might take me a while to do it. Whereas if we're looking at stamina, we're looking at that maximum, capacity of being able to do that amount of work. And that's going to be different. So I can guarantee you, if I am running at maximum capacity, if I am sprinting as hard as I can, I am not going to last 40 minutes. Maybe I will last 4 minutes. It will actually be less than that. It won't even be 4 minutes. Like maybe I will last 60 seconds. So here's the thing is there is, if we look scientifically kind of at the difference, there is a difference between the two. Think about strength as stamina. Think about power as stamina. When you think about the length of time that you are exercising, the number of repetitions you're doing, that would be more your endurance. But don't get too hung up on the two and what's different between the two, because here's the thing is we need both. Okay. So for your dogs to work at peak performance, you have to build stamina. You have to build strength. You have to work on that power, but you also have to build endurance over time. You need both. And depending on the activities that you do with your dog, some are going to favor more on the stamina and some are going to favor more on the endurance, but they are both important. So if your training is only focusing on one, your dog will not reach full potential if you are ignoring part of that. The two together is very powerful. I'll give you one more example. I do a lot of running. I've done marathon training, half marathons. Sometimes I get all into the running and I do a lot of running and I kind of ignore going to the gym. I'm not lifting my weights. I'm not doing my leg strengthening exercises. So I get kind of my endurance. I have really good endurance and I'm doing miles and miles running, but I'm not super powerful. I'm not like sprinting distances. When I start incorporating some strength training and I'm trying to build more of that capacity, more power and more strength, and I'm combining the short bursts of energy, the strength, the power, and I'm including my endurance, I am a better runner. And I'm also healthier because my legs are stronger, my knees don't bother me as much. So we really need to think about, we need the two together. So like I said, I just want to differentiate the two. I am guilty of using the two terms interchangeably, but I did want to point out that if you look in kind of in exercise science, there is a differentiation between the two, but don't stress so much about that as long as you are building both into your workout program. So what does that look like? Before I give you examples, here are a couple things. If you want to build endurance, if you want to build stamina, there's 3 key things. There's more than 3, but I'm going to point out 3 things that I think are very, very important before you even begin for you to think about. Number 1 is your dog's body condition. What is your dog have a good ideal body condition? And I like to use the Purina body condition scoring system. You can just Google it, Purina body score system. And it's on a scale of 1 to 9. And it looks at visually looking at your dog. Is your dog overweight? Is your dog underweight? So if you want to build stamina, you want more stamina, you want more endurance. If your dog is overweight and your dog is in poor body condition, you really, deal with that first. Get your dog healthy, lose some pounds. Your dog is really going to be limited in building stamina endurance if your dog is not in good physical condition. And your dog does not have a good body condition and also is at a good weight. So you can still work on cardio, of course. You can still exercise, still do strength training. But your main priority should not be, let's increase endurance and stamina and let's push my dog, when your dog is not in good physical condition to begin with. And you also want to, it's a given, I shouldn't have to say this, but it's a given, your dog should be healthy and injury-free. So number one is, assessing your dog's body condition. Does your dog need to lose a little bit of weight? Your dog's going to have better stamina if it's a proper weight. Then number two, this is another thing, is consistency. So you can have the most amazing fitness program in the world. And if you are not consistent, you will build up fitness and then the fitness level of your dog will deteriorate and you won't maintain good fitness. You are not going to be able to build stamina and endurance if you're working on strength or power or speed or cardio, if you're only doing it like once every 10 to 14 days. So if you're serious about building stamina, if you're serious about building endurance, you need to be serious about being consistent. And again, that's why I'm giving you this calendar for you to work with, is put it on your calendar. Put it on your calendar. Again, I put the link down in the comments section. This is going to help you with consistency. Don't expect the time just to happen miraculously for you. Schedule it in your day. If it's a priority, schedule it. So consistency is really important. And then number three, your dog's current fitness level. So before you start focusing on building endurance and building stamina and working on power, working on strength, building up more cardio, before you build anything, look at what you have in front of you right now. Are you doing any cardio right now? Is your cardio just playing in the backyard? Are you training 1 day a week? Are you doing no strengthening for your dog? No hill work, no resistance, no doggy squats, or no drag work? So you have to get a good foundation, but know where your dog is to start with. So if you're going to build endurance, you're going to start with where your dog is now, and you're going to build gradually. So if I'm only doing 2 miles a week, 1 day a week, I'm going to slowly add a second day. Over a number of weeks, I will add a third day. And maybe I'm only going to do 2 miles, 2 miles, 2 miles, and make it 3 days a week. Then when we have our foundation, then we're going to start increasing it. But we're not going to increase it every single day, because the dog's body needs time to adapt to exercise and get stronger, get faster. So you're going to be going in slow increments if you want to build strength and power, build stamina. I'm going to give you some examples. Hold on. But you have to see where your dog is right now. And if you aren't consistent, you might as well just assume you're kind of starting at ground zero. You're starting from kind of a beginner level. Even though your dog's healthy and fit, if you're not out there, say, taking your dog cardio 3 days a week, doing 5 miles every day you go out, if you're not doing that on a consistent basis, you can't come back the next week and go from 5 miles to 6 miles, because your dog is not properly conditioned for 5 miles because you're inconsistent. So be honest with yourself. They'll say, yeah, sometimes we go swimming for 20 minutes. Sometimes we go hiking for an hour. Be honest on where you are right now on a regular, consistent, weekly basis with your dog. Michael, good to see you. Michael, you said, awesome. Michael has some comments here. You changed your 8-year-old Malinois to weight management version of its food. He dropped 10 pounds. Wow. Awesome. Yeah. So if your dog's 10 pounds overweight, your concern is not stamina endurance right now, building stamina endurance. I mean, it might be like, let's build up some more walking. Let's get some more activity, but we want to get your dog healthy and a good condition first before we add any kind of strenuous work. So that's a great example. You said it was a wake up that he's getting older and needed to change. Yes, as your dogs are getting older, and you have to evaluate. Don't just blindly say, oh, my dog eats 4 cups of food or so many pounds of food a day. Or that changes by not just by age, Michael, but also, of course, by activity level. If you have training, if you have a competition season, you're working your dog more. If you are in the police academy and you're training your dog 5 days a week, your dog is burning more calories than when you're on the street and you're maybe, getting action maybe a couple days a week. Or even if you're doing it daily, it's not the same as when you're going through the police academy training your dog. And so you have to adjust. I see that with some of the police officers. They'll be in the police academy. The dogs are training in the canine academy. They're training 5 days a week. They're burning tons of calories. They graduate, and the dogs they're not as active, but their food stays the same, and they start gaining weight. So good point, Michael. Thanks for bringing that up. So, okay, so those are the kind of things to get started, kind of our foundation. We need a healthy dog, good weight, good body condition. We need to be consistent. We need to be dedicated. So there's 3 things that you need to think of now as we are building, as we're building our endurance, is we need to think about 3 variables. I can't fit them all on the line here where they're going to be large in the words, but I'll pull them up here. Frequency, intensity, and duration. Okay, so when you're ready to build stamina, you're ready to build endurance, you're ready to work your dog harder, these are 3 variables you need to think about. And which variable you're going to be playing with and changing is going to depend on your goals. And I'm going to give you examples coming up. Let me just go one more time. Frequency, if you can't remember it, write it down. Frequency, intensity, and duration. So let me give you some examples. Now, what does that look like? Kristen, thank you for joining us. Kristen says, building endurance over the winter months. One of the concerns is over the winter months, fitness and endurance drops. Yes. Spring is one common time where you find that you and your dog need to build strength again. The goal is to maintain this and build it through the winter months. Yes, yes. Oh, and over the past month, Kristen, your dog dropped 4 pounds, 3 more pounds. She will be perfect weight. Also, you'll keep endurance consistent. Yeah, that is the thing. You know, I moved to South Carolina in July. I was in New Jersey running 3 days a week, sometimes going 5 miles a day with my dog. And then I moved to South Carolina and it was 100 degrees and we could do nothing cardio outdoors. He'd have heat stroke. So we went through a number of months where his fitness level dropped cardio wise. Now that the weather's cooler, we're building it back up. And that's where a treadmill might come in handy. I don't have a treadmill, but I don't believe in using a treadmill, 5-7 days a week. But when you're balancing it with other things, I can see benefits for it. When it's 105 degrees outside, yeah, if I could put my dog on a treadmill a couple times, that would be helpful. So those are some things to think about. All right, so you ready for some examples? Let me pull up our first example. I have a picture for you to guide us. All right, so our first example is, oops, not agility. That's not an agility dog. Our first example is detection. Detection, and say it might be scent work, search and rescue. And so let's look at that. So we got frequency and we've got our duration. I'm going to take that off. Okay, so frequency. So frequency can be, for example, if I'm wanting to build better endurance in my dog during detection work, I may say, okay, I need to increase frequency. So maybe when I do searches, maybe I only do it 1 time a day in the evening. So frequency might mean that instead of doing it in the evening, I do it in the morning and the evening. So we now do it twice a day. Frequency could be maybe you only do detection work 1 day a week. And so frequency may be, okay, to build up more endurance, let's now do it 2 days a week. So there's a couple different ways you can look at frequency. And so you're going to want to think about your situation and which is going to be best for your situation. So I know for a fact, if my dog is searching only 1 day a week, I mean, just to keep him on his toes and just really keep him accurate, if I'm going to increase frequency for my dog, if I'm only doing it 1 day a week, I'm going to add another day. If my dog is already searching, say 3, 4, 5 days a week, and I want to build more endurance, then I'm going to look at what's happening during that day, and maybe I'm going to add an extra session or 2. So there's no kind of golden rule because each scenario, each situation is going to be different. Another thing for frequency may be, for example, let's do search and rescue. Let's say I know a lot of search and rescue teams. Most of the teams I know, they train on weekends. So you're training 1 day a week. So what happens when there's a catastrophe and there's a hurricane or an earthquake and you're being deployed on site? And my friends that like in FEMA, when they take their dogs out, they'll be out there for days and they're not working their dogs 1 day a week. When they go on site, they might be working their dogs multiple days in a row. So if my search and rescue dog is only training 1 day a week every Saturday, and I may be deployed and my dog might have to work long hours and multiple days in a row, my training needs to change. So that means I need to build endurance. My frequency, maybe my dog has to learn to do searching day to day, back to back days. So you see how you need to think about your individual needs and what you're doing, what's your rationale, and the frequency is one of the things you can change. Okay, the other thing is duration, right? So what does that look like for scent work, detection work? So duration the first thing I think of for duration is a longer search. So if your dog, let's say you have a tracking dog and you're doing half-mile trails and you want to build your dog up to a mile, 2-mile trails. So you need to build the duration and the amount of time your dog is searching. You need to gradually increase that time. So we're going to do a 1/4 mile. We're going to go a little event, build up to 3/4, build up to a half mile. I'm sorry, 3/4 to a half. I don't know my math. 3/4 to a mile, then to and then slow increments. You may, if your dog is only doing it 1 day a week and you're trying to go from a half mile to 2 miles, I would build a more solid foundation. I would do more than 1 day a week. I would try to get multiple days a week, get that solid, then start adding your distance, building up. Because remember, consistency. My dog is going to get faster, better, stronger if I'm more consistent. So if I want to build up to a mile, a 2-mile track, and my dog's only doing it 1 day a week, I personally would want to do it more than 1 day a week, get my foundation, maybe do half mile, half mile, half mile, get them up to 3 days a week, and then I'm going to start making those tracks longer gradually, right? So that's another way how we can look at detection, building up that endurance. Then the other is intensity. So what does intensity look like when we're looking at a dog doing detection work, scent work? So intensity, let me give you some examples here. So intensity, think about what makes our dog search harder, or what can challenge our dog to search harder. Number one is, where are the finds? Where are you hiding, the person? Where are you hiding the scent? So I might have a dog and the scent is right at ground level. I may have a scent where my dog has to climb up on things and jump on things and crawl through things. So now my dog is having to work a bit harder to get to the odor. So I'm making the intensity is, I'm making a more intense work. And again, you have to do it gradually and build that up over time. You can't all of a sudden go to super easy hides and then all of a sudden, have them, way up high and crawling through and digging through stuff. So it needs to be gradual, but changing that intensity of the search. Another thing, let me go back to search and rescue, tracking dogs. Think about the terrain you're searching. So I can go out and track in a field of grass that is 5 inches high, or I can go out and track in water and boggy, swampy areas. I can track on sand. I can go track in the woods with lots of fallen leaves, and the scent is doing different things. So when I'm building up more endurance and I want my dog to be able to go longer in those searches, that is another variable to think about, is how can you make that search more intense? You can also make it more challenging by adding in more distractions. So that's the thing, is when you're thinking about building up and making it more challenging and building up stamina, building up endurance, you need to think about those variables and you, under your situation, which is the best variable to change at that time. And I would advise you to change one variable at a time. Get your dog consistent before you make another change. So if I'm wanting my dog to go from a half-mile track to a mile track, from tracking in grass to tracking in the swamp, I'm not going to increase those two things on the same day or the same week. I'm not going to go from a half mile to a mile and change the terrain to more challenging all in the same week or the same training session. So think about those variables. Think about duration, frequency, think about intensity, and which of those variables is the most urgent for you to change right now. And again, it's going to be situational depending on your dog's needs, the kind of work you do, and what you're preparing for. So that's an example for detection and scent work. So let me give you another example, because I told you it really can look different depending on the scenarios and your dogs. So the next example I'm going to give is, let's say, agility. Let me throw up the picture here so we got the right dog. So the next one is agility. So what does it mean if we're wanting to build stamina? We're wanting to build endurance in agility. And there's a number of things to think about here a little bit differently. Frequency, duration, intensity. So frequency can be, are you doing agility training 1 day a week? So that's the first thing is, I can make it 2 days a week. I can make it, instead of 1 time a day, I can make it twice a day. Frequency might also mean when you train on a Saturday, are you doing 1 round? Are you going around the course twice? Are you going around the course 5 times? How many opportunities is your dog going to go around that course and practice? So frequency can, like I said, it could be in a single day. It can be across days, multiple days, depending on your situation. It can also be looking at, twice a week. Am I doing it 3 times a week? So the number one is, I would say, build consistency. If you don't have the consistency yet, get that consistency first before you start making it, longer, harder, and build up that endurance with that foundation first. Okay, so frequency. Duration. So what does it look like if we're doing duration, if we want to build up duration for our agility dogs? So the first thing that comes to mind is the length of the course. So, how many jumps is your dog jumping? How much time is your dog actually working, actively working? So I don't compete in agility, so I'm not exactly sure what's common and how they train. I know in French ring, we train above and beyond what we do in competition. So in competition in French ring, maybe my dog's going to do 5 bites, 6 bites, however many exercises. When we train in protection work, typically the people that I've trained with in French ring, we do more bites, more exercises, and more repetitions than our dog would ever do in a trial. So when we come to a trial, like when we think about endurance and stamina, a trial is like easy. Like our training, we're pushing our dogs more, and trial day is easy. So I don't know if you guys do that. You guys let me know if you do agility. If you have a certain course is normally a certain length, do you train beyond that? Because that is something that you can think about, is if you're always doing the same distance, the same length of a course, one of the things you can do to build that endurance is to make it longer gradually. So let's give another example. So that is duration. So the next thing would be intensity, right? So intensity. So what does it look like if we want to build intensity when we're working with our agility dogs? So intensity can be the type of a course you're doing. It can be the combination of jumps, which jumps and which exercises that, maybe you got the A-frame, you got the catwalk, you've got different types of jumps. What are you pairing next to each other? So in French ring, in the protection sports, we've got certain exercises that are more difficult than others. There's one that I know really fatigues my dog, and I always, I pray. I was like, please don't let that be the last exercise. My dogs will be toast if he's pushed himself too hard. But that is one of the things to think about, is if you're going to be looking at the intensity, you can look at the height of the jumps. You can look at the types of the jumps or the different obstacles your dog's going over, and the way you are combining those obstacles to make it physically more challenging for the dog. Also, as I already mentioned with the detection dogs, the terrain, the kind of terrain that you are working. Are you working in dirt? Are you working in soft grass? That can change the workload that your dog is performing on, the kind of terrain that your dog is working on. I imagine some fields, ideally you want a flat surface, but I imagine everything isn't always completely flat. The other thing to think about, let me give you one more example. Let me make sure. So we covered frequency, duration, and intensity. Oh, here's another example for intensity, is recovery time. So let's say I'm going to be going around the course 3 times. And maybe you go around the course and then you go put your dog away. And then somebody else goes and they work their dog. And then you come back later and then it's your turn, where your dog just had a huge rest period. Maybe your dog had an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 30 minutes recovery time. So another way to change the intensity is to shorten the recovery time. So maybe you normally work your dog one session, put them away, and come back an hour later and work another session. So what you might want to start thinking about is shortening the recovery time. So that can build the intensity. Your dog is not having as much time to recover. It may mean doing 2, back-to-back sessions, or shortening. Instead of putting your dog back in the crate, you keep your dog out. Your dog does not completely cool down and rest, and you get your dog back out there again. So playing around with that recovery time and how much time in between sessions is a way to also increase intensity. The other thing I wanted to mention when you're looking at stamina and endurance is a lot of times when people are building stamina and endurance, they just keep focused on their sport. They're just focusing on their job or their sport for their dog. And so agility is very much kind of sprinting, short bursts of energy, a lot of anaerobic activities. So one of the things you can also do to build up your endurance for your agility dog, or any kind of activity that is predominantly, which most of our dog sports are sprinting, anaerobic, short bursts, dock diving, fly ball. Most of these sports are short bursts of energy. So another way you can help build up endurance, so you're building up some stamina, power, is to add in some longer aerobic activities, like take your dog out jogging at an easy trot for 40 minutes, building up to that. So I've had some people where they were struggling with endurance with their agility and flyball dogs, and all their activity, all their training was short bursts of energy, sprinting. And they started to build in some longer distance type aerobic working, trotting, steady trotting, cardio, nice steady cardio, not as intense. And they saw improvement over time with their dog's overall endurance on the agility course. So remember, you need both. You need the power, the sprinting, the jumping, but you also need to build that amount of time, that length of time that your dog is performing. So that is an example for agility, but a lot of those examples I just gave for agility would apply for a lot of dog sports that involve short bursts of energy sprinting. And let me give you one more. So one more example. Let's look at our protection dogs, patrol dogs, sport dogs protection, or it could also be like our police dogs, military dogs. So what does this look like when we want to build up stamina and endurance for a protection dog? We want to build up frequency, intensity, duration. And again, it's going to depend on where your dog is and what your goals are. What does that look like? So let me give an example of, frequency. Frequency can be, there's a couple examples here. Frequency might be back to how often do you train? Are you training protection work 1 day a week? When you train with your team, when you train with your unit, are you going out, is your dog doing one session of bite work and that's it in 1 day? Are you, when I do French ring training, usually I would get 2 to 3 sessions. When we would have a trainer come for the weekend, I would go do a session. My dog goes back in the car or the crate. A few hours later, we do another session. So frequency can be within the day, or frequency can be across the week, right? So that's kind of consistent across the examples I've given you. So what does it look like now? Let me give you one other thing, frequency. Frequency for protection dogs could also be the number of bites. So you may go out and do an exercise with your dog and your dog gets 3 bites. You may maybe you build up and a training session is not 3 bites, but now a training session is 12 bites. Now a training session is 12 different exercises or repetitive exercises. So frequency, building up the endurance for training over time and repetitive sessions, but also for bite work, frequency is how many times is your dog getting that opportunity to bite. So you could increase that, building up the jaw strength, right? Because if I'm only doing 3 bites, and then, now my dog's practicing and he's getting 25 bites, if my dog's not conditioned, like he's going to get tired. He's going to fatigue. Well, his whole body will fatigue, but you're going to feel it definitely in the bite and in the jaw. So that's another example of, that is an example of frequency. So duration. So what does duration look like for this? So duration here could be, again, it could be the length of a training session, but also duration could be how long is your dog on the bite. So duration might be I go and my dog bites, 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds, my dog lets go. I know a lot of times we practice static biting. So some dogs will only maintain biting if you're fighting with it. And then you stop fighting and you just stand there and the dog lets go because you're not fighting it. So I know with Bocce, we were working on duration where the dog bites and I want him to stay on the bite, even if the decoy's not fighting him. So duration can also be the amount of time that the dog is on the bite. Now, here's the thing is if your dog is used to biting for 3 seconds and letting go, you can't all of a sudden expect your dog to hold on for 20 seconds and 30 seconds and a minute, because your dog is trained to only go so many seconds and let go. So you have to gradually build up those increments, or your dog's just gonna, be coming off if he's not used to that, or fatiguing, or he's gonna start getting munchy on the bite because he's fatiguing and he's not used to that. So, so that's another example is the duration, how long your dog is on the bite. And then the final one is, intensity. So what does it look like when we're doing intensity? So intensity, when we've got that dog biting and protection work, patrol work. So think about, perfect example, I just talked about a static decoy. So a decoy is just standing there, not active, not resisting, not fighting the dog. So the intensity is not super high. Now, if the decoy starts fighting the dog and running and pulling and trying to escape and twisting and turning while the dog's on it, now it's more of an intense, we've raised the workload. The dog is working harder. Also, depending on the dog, intensity can change depending on where the dog is biting. So, for example, it depends on the dog. Some dogs may be more intense and work harder on the leg. Other dogs might be more intense when they're biting upper body. So I know my dog, Knox, I'm trying to think if Bocce was the same. Knox does more biting on the leg. When he bites up top, whether it's on the arm or the chest, he's biting higher up, it's more personal. And when he's biting upper body, he gets more emotional and he gets more angry and he fights more. So he gets more kind of, in a way, it's more of an emotional stress also on the upper body versus the lower body. So for him, I would say upper body is more intense for him versus doing a bunch of leg bites. So depending on your dog, depending on the character of your dog, it can also be the style of training you're doing with your dog, how much experience they have. Intensity can vary depending on where the dog is biting on the body. And I had one more example of intensity that just slipped my mind. What was it? Oh my gosh, it slipped my mind. There was another example I was going to give that's a little bit different for intensity. But those are some things to think about. I remember. Intensity, other things that can make the protection work more intense is pressure. So when the decoy is fighting the dog, you've got some physical pressure, right? You're pulling, you're trying to escape. The dog's biting your leg, you're trying to run away. So that is putting more pressure. But there's also environmental pressures. I'm thinking of things like our Mondio ring. So it's not just physical, but there's also the environmental stressors. And like I mentioned with Knox, getting more emotional and biting in the upper body. So another way that you can change the intensity of the work is not just the decoy fighting the dog, but it can also be environmental pressures that are making it harder for the dog. And it can be a psychological pressure, but we know that mentally, emotionally, psychologically, we do have a physiological response to our emotions. So it might not be somebody, beating on a dog and physically fighting with a dog, but if you put environmental stresses on the dog, it is going to affect the dog physically. So that can also change the intensity. Excellent. Timbo K said using tools such as bite pillows and tugs can help increase endurance in this area. Yes, excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I was giving examples where the dog is biting on the sleeve or on the suit. Yes, we also have where you're doing bite pillows and tugs. And I'm glad you brought that up because also you have the different consistency, right? Like in the sleeves, you have the softer sleeves. And you think about a puppy sleeve, an intermediate sleeve. Bite suits, they have different consistency. You have your competition suit, your training suit. Thank you, thank you. I'm glad you mentioned that. So those are also ways, think about when a dog is biting a sleeve or a suit, where they have to really bite hard to get a better grip versus something like a tug or a puppy sleeve. Thank you, thank you. So as you can see, there's a lot of different examples of there's not just one thing you can change. There are a number of ways to think about it, but ultimately what you want to think about is you want to look at how are you working your dog? Are you consistent? Is your dog in good condition? And does your dog have a baseline? And then you're going to look at frequency, intensity, and duration. And that's all going to vary depending on the activity you're doing with your dog, and which one you want to change is going to depend on your situation. But you have a lot to play with. And then don't forget, if your dog is always doing short bursts of energy and sprinting, bring in some longer cardio. If you have a sled dog, a dryland mushing dog that is always doing 5-mile runs, your dog can benefit from strength and power exercises, because remember, it's both. We need to build up more of that maximum capacity, that strength, but we also need to increase the amount of time that we're working, stamina and endurance. So there's a lot of different variables to come into play. If you would like to know more, putting it together into your weekly program, there's a lot of different things that come into play. So if you want to know more, the first thing that I would recommend is to download the handout that I put. And if you watch the video replay, I'll go add this. Look at the calendar and look at the different areas of where you're wanting to focus on. Are you looking at strength right now? Do you need to work on more sprinting? Do you need to build in more longer distance cardio? Put that on your calendar. And then also, if you're interested in knowing more, let me put this up. If you go to my website, feel free to message me, of course, anytime, but it's Northeast Canine Conditioning, if I can spell it, conditioning.com. Hope I spelled it correctly. If you go to my website, let me pull this up, northeastcanineconditioning.com. On my website, I have a number of different programs, whether you are police, military, search and rescue. If you're just looking at fitness for your own dog, my Elite Canine Athlete program is if you want to learn about this and teach other people and build fitness programs. But definitely, if you want to learn more about all these different components of fitness, how do you put them together, reach out to me. Let me know you're interested. Normally what I do is I meet with people and do kind of a one-on-one chat with you, a conversation to see which program would be best for you and your needs, because it can vary whether you have a pet dog, a working dog, whether you're a dog trainer. I have programs for all of you, kind of runs the gamut. So download the calendar. Check out my website. Feel free to message me if you have any questions. You can email me, catch me on Facebook. And then also, if you download the calendar, I will have your email address, and you will periodically, when I have articles or webinars, free webinars or trainings coming up, you'll be notified. So awesome. Thank you guys for joining. Are there any questions? And also, if you watch the replay, please feel free to ask questions. I get notifications. I will go, I will answer them. I will respond. And thank you, Angie. Angie put in the link for the website, Northeast Canine Conditioning. And like I said, you can see the different programs. You can download the brochure for my Elite Canine Athlete program. Some of them I don't have enrollment happening right now, but if you message me and get on the waiting list, you will be the first to be notified when enrollment starts. So thank you, Angie. Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Kristen and Michael. I think I got all your comments here. Any questions before we go? We had a nice group of you today. Feel free to share this if you had useful information here, things that were helpful and informative. That means if it was good for you, other people are going to benefit. Every Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern time, you will find me on my Northeast Canine Conditioning. My Facebook business page is where you will catch me live. So I love when you're here live. I love to engage with you, have you ask questions, but I love, love, love also reading your comments and seeing that you are enjoying these and watching these shows, even if it's the video replay. So thank you, Angie, for joining us. All right, so let me know if you have any questions. Download that calendar. Put it on your calendar and start thinking about what are your dog's needs. And if you need to get your dog in better condition, lose weight, have a veterinary checkup, make sure your dog's ready to go. And also, let me just put a little a side comment here. Everything I talked about today for adult dogs that are physically mature. If you have a puppy, go check out the videos on my Northeast Canine Conditioning page. I've got about oh my gosh, I have about an hour, 2 hours worth of videos, Facebook Live videos on puppy fitness. So today we're just talking about adult dogs physically mature. For puppies and senior dogs, our elderly dogs that need accommodations, I have separate video trainings for you for that. So thanks, Michael. Thanks for joining us. All right, you guys, I am logging out. Keep me posted, keep me updates, send me questions if you have topics you want to do next week, Friday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. Join me and I will see you there. Have a great rest of the week. Bye-bye for now.